Welcome to my 6-star reads. Okay, so I'm going to be going through a list of my 6-star reads for you guys. These books exceed 5 stars for me. These are books that I read them and I've thought about them at least once a week ever since reading them. These books are books that literally stuck with me, changed my life, cried with them, felt like I was the characters, felt like I knew the characters, felt like we were one, okay? Me and these books were like this. So that's what I'm going to be telling you about. I've rated a lot of books 5 stars in my day. I feel like I give off 5-star ratings easily. Maybe a bit too easily, but these books made me change my view on life. Like, not really, but like these books were just so freaking good that they exceeded my expectations in every single way. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So first I want to talk about a couple of series that were 6-star series for me. And I will start with the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Guys, I read this last April, and if I could read a book, any book again for the first time, actually it would be any of these, but like, I wish I could go back and just do that all over again because they were freaking amazing. And specifically, The Ballad of Never After, the second one in the series, there was 3 books. Okay, I guess it's a trilogy. I don't know. Is that the same thing as a series? I don't know. But anyway, The Ballad of Never After spoke to me. It was everything I needed it to be. It was also the first fantasy book that I read that wasn't like super political and like all this stuff. Like, I actually really enjoyed it, and I was really afraid of fantasy books before that, and this kind of changed my opinion on them. I haven't read many since, but I loved reading about like the vampires in this, the princesses. Like, it felt like I was reading a fairy tale, but grown-up version. Like, that's what I loved about it so much. I felt like I was a kid again reading. It was amazing. Now, mind you, this book is definitely not YA at all, like young adult, but every time I think about these books, my heart starts beating again. Like, I could be resuscitated with these books. Like, that's what I mean. Like, they were so freaking good. These are the top of my list for sure. Okay, next I want to talk about Summer I Turned Pretty. When I first got back into reading in 2020, after not really reading like as much through high school, this was the first series that I read. This is a young adult series. Everybody knows the show that's on Amazon Prime for it now. This was the first time that I was reading and I was really feeling something, like, in a long time. These books were part of what got me back into reading consistently. When I was in the middle of this series, trilogy, whatever, it was all I thought about. I remember being out with my mom and we went like on a day trip somewheres, and literally the entire time all I could think was I need to get back and read these books. I need to finish it. I need to see what happens with Conrad and Belly. I need to see what happens with Jeremiah and Belly. I need to see what happens with Belly. Like, I honestly don't know if I read them for the first time now, if I would feel the same way that I did about them when I did read them, because I feel like my reading taste has changed so much. Actually, I don't know, because I love young adult romances, but I just can't say enough about The Summer I Turned Pretty. It really spiked something in my brain that made me love reading again. So I'll always have a special place for those books and those characters. And I can't wait for season 3 to get on Amazon. The next trilogy is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I'm sure that you've heard these books be talked about many times. It's for good reason. These books, they are young adult mystery, but they're written so well. I remember I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder on a plane when I was going to Edmonton, and I just loved them. They were so good. They were so fast-paced. I loved the mystery element, but the fact that it wasn't like super serious at the same time. Do you know what I mean? And like the fact that she started a podcast in these series, and the fact that she was a high school student and like solving this murder and this mystery and like whatever. It was so good. So Love in My Heart to Pippa and Ravi forever. I loved them so much. I just felt like, I feel like this one needs to be made into a movie or a show, but like done well. If it was like, sometimes it's not always done well, but actually I don't even know, because I feel like they can't do it the way that I would want them to do it. Like, it wouldn't be the way that I'm picturing in my head, and then that would ruin it for me. But reading these books, I was like I was watching a movie. They were so good. And the only thing that I will say about these is the way that these books ended. The end of the third book really did fire me up a little bit. I did not really love how it ended, which is sad, but I'll let it slide because the rest of it was so good, and that it's just, I don't know. It was just the last book, the very end of the book, that I was really disappointed in. So I will say that, and I feel like a lot of people felt that way too, but other than that, obviously it was amazing. And I love Holly Jackson's writing in general. I've read a couple of her other books, and the way she writes is just so captivating. Okay, now that we're done with the series, trilogies, whatever, let's get into standalones. So obviously I need to start with Love in Other Words. I feel like at one point this was everybody's favorite book, but I feel like it was everybody's favorite book for good reason. Like, two book lovers falling in love, but like childhood friends to lovers, okay? Are you kidding? I read this book in 2020 and I've thought about it every single day since. Every part of it just got me. I feel like Love in Other Words was written for me specifically, from Christina Lauren. They were thinking of me when they wrote this book, because they knew that I would love it personally. Love in Other Words was actually the first book that I went out and I bought the physical copy of instead of just having it on my Kindle, because I thought, I need to have this book in my hands. This is a book that I will read 1,000 times over in my life, and I never reread books. This is the only book I've ever reread. And every time I read it, it's just as good. It just gave me this crazy feeling. Like, and when it was over, I was crying because it was over. It was just, I can't keep going. Next we have After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Something I will say is Taylor Jenkins Reid is my favorite author of all time. I've read every single one of her books, and every single one of her books has been at least a 4-star for me, 3.5, 4-star for me, if not a 5-star. But After I Do is my most favorite book by her ever. Okay, I read this a while ago, so correct me if I'm wrong, but like, this is about a couple who they were married for a long time, and then they are thinking about getting a divorce, and so they take like a year apart. Something that I loved about this book is that there was letters or emails or something exchanged between them that was frequent throughout the book, and I know a lot of people don't like that, but I love reading that. It just feels more personal and more kind of like you really know who you're reading about. This book made me bawl my eyes out. It sent me into a spiral. I felt like I was like a 40-year-old getting divorced. I've never experienced anything like that, but like, it felt like I was her. I felt her pain. Everything that she was saying, I was just like, okay, that's literally heart-wrenching. And I'm eating it up because it's so good. Like, the way that it was written was beautiful. Literally beautiful. And if you want to read something that's heartbreaking, I mean, honestly, just like freaking heartbreaking and real and raw, I'm sure, then you need to read this book. This is the best book I've ever read by her, and all of her, that's saying something because all of her books are so amazing to me. Okay, and speaking of beautiful, heart-wrenching quotes, this is a book that upsets me because nobody reads it. I never see anybody ever talking about this book, ever, and I thought about this book every hour for a year after I read it. I read this, I think, in 2020 as well. The book is A Love Letter to Whiskey, and if you get anything from this video, please read this book. Please, 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 please read this book. Whenever I tell people to read it, they don't, and I don't think that they understand what they're missing out on. What initially had drawn me to it is the name, A Love Letter to Whiskey. Like, are you kidding? And it's exactly how you think it would be. Stunning. The writing was amazing. Literally, I felt like I started reading this and then 3 seconds later it was over and I was really sad. Let me just read the little, what is that called, about part of this book, this part for you, and I'm just gonna leave it at that because then you'll know exactly why I read this book. And you'll know exactly why I loved it too, because this entire book is written just like this that I'm about to read you. It's crazy how the buzz comes back after you've been sober for so long. Whiskey stood there on my doorstep just like he had 1 year before, except this time there was no rain, no anger, no wedding invitation. It was just us. It was just him, the old friend, the easy smile, the twisted solace wrapped in a glittering bottle. It was just me, the alcoholic, pretending like I didn't want to taste him, realizing too quickly that months of being clean didn't make me crave him any less. But we can't start here. No, to tell the story right, we need to go back to the beginning, back to the very first drop. This is my love letter to Whiskey. I only hope he reads it. Okay, that's so dirty, so don't mind that, but now you get it, and I'm going to leave it at that. And if you don't read it, you just don't get it the way that I get it. And the final book I have to tell you guys about is Mary Jane. I think I loved this book so much because it was so unlike anything I've ever read before. It's about a 14-year-old girl in the 70s who starts babysitting for a neighbor, and their family is so different from hers. Hers is very like prim and proper and like all this stuff. This family's very wild and crazy, and just follows her summer with them. I think the genre is like, I'm gonna look it up because I don't know. Okay, so the genre is coming of age and historical fiction. I've never read historical fiction before this one, and honestly, if I knew that it was historical fiction, I probably would have not ever picked that up. But the coming of age part of that is very accurate. I just felt for Mary Jane the entire book. Her character was beautiful, and I feel like this book could really teach you something about life. One more thing I want to say about Mary Jane is that I feel like if I read this in high school, like as a teenager, it would have really touched me and moved me. Not necessarily more than it did now as like an adult, a 24-year-old teenager. I just feel like it's a good book for somebody of that age. Even if you are older than the main character who is 14, I feel like, I don't know, I would suggest this to a teenager. Maybe that's a bad idea, but I don't know. Okay, next I'm going to talk about a little duology that is 6 stars for me, 100%. And that is If He Had Been With Me and If Only I Had Told Her. I do have the actual copy of If He Had Been With Me, but that's not at my house right now. These books were so upsetting, frustrating, moving, beautiful, entertaining. It follows two people who grow up together. Their moms are best friends, and it follows their friendship and their love until something tragic happens. And in the second book, it's sort of the aftermath of that, and then also like some different point of views and everything like that. And I honestly just will never get over these books. They were so amazing. They took my heart right from my chest, pretty much. I would kind of search up the trigger warnings. I was going to say what it was, but then I realized it's kind of a spoiler. Like, you do kind of know what's going to happen, but I don't want to like straight up say it. I don't want to ruin anything in case if like you don't. But yeah, you need to go read this. You need to go read these books if you really want to feel something in your heart, because I really felt something in my heart when I was reading these. I literally just finished like 4 minutes ago, so it's fresh in my mind, but I had to add it to this video because I'm just speechless. I feel like that's because I just finished it. I'm so speechless. Okay, that's all of my 6-star reads for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope that I'm not forgetting any, and if I am, I will put them here. And I'm also going to feel really bad if I am, because I don't know, these books just mean so much to me. People that don't read just don't understand what books can do for somebody. So yeah, that's all. I have a reading vlog coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want. I will see you in my next video. Bye!